I really want to talk about this 2% solution. First of all, I love the framework. I think everybody, you have a way of kind of putting things where it just seems obvious what to do. Some of us been marching with protest signs trying to make the point, and you got to just drop one sound bite. And oh yeah, Robert Smith, yeah, like what he said. So I love the framework, and I also love the fact that you have these kind of practical solutions. The thing I'm most excited about, besides the stuff we're doing together on criminal justice, we'll talk about before we go. But the other thing I'm most excited about is this 2% solution. It is so elegant. It is so smart. And nobody can object to it. I mean, when I tell people, I talk about you all the time. I mean, it's one, if people's heads just immediately start nodding. Can you just talk about the 2% solution,
Sure.
especially with regard to banks? And by the way, when you say MDFI, it took me about a month to realize you meant black banks. So,
yeah, black banks, right. Got it.
But talk about it.
Yeah, at its highest level, if you think about it, the average American donates about 2% of their income a year to, the churches and, philanthropic endeavors. And, obviously the Giving Pledge people donate more than that because they're capable of donating more than that. But the dynamic is, well, why don't we ask corporations, and many of them do their forms of philanthropy that are effective in ways that fit part of their corporate charter. But, if you think about specific industries where there are those deserts, why don't we call upon those industry leaders, the CEOs, and say, why don't you look to donate 2% of, well, call it your annual earnings, could be some form of capitalization, could be through a foundation, whatever it might be, over 10 years. Again, it's got to be a sustainable period of time, not just a one-time shot. Oh, I feel really good. People aren't protesting anymore, but saying, I'm really going to change and eradicate these deserts and that have been caused by this systemic racism. So if you take the banking community, for instance, top 10 banks in America over the last 10 years made about $970 billion in profit. And if you said, okay, if we just took 2% of that a year for the next 10 years, assume they do about the same, might be some hiccups, et cetera, that's about $20 billion or so that they can ultimately plow into these banking deserts. Just to give you statistics, 70% of African-American communities don't actually have a branch bank in those communities. So if you have a small business, and 94% of African-American small businesses are sole proprietorships, LLCs, they don't really have banking relationships. And we discovered that through the PPP process and trying to get some payroll protection loans into these communities. So, but they're banked by community development financial institutions and MDIs, which are minority depository institutions, which are, Black-owned banks. And these banks, they do a great job. These financial institutions do a great job servicing the community as best they can, but they are woefully undercapitalized. In fact, if you now could drive capital into those community banks, modernize in technology, this kind of gets back to, one of the things I do for a living. If you actually modernize those banks using technology, you actually have the ability to deliver the same quality of products and services and solutions tuned to those businesses at a very low cost. And in doing that, it creates a massive ROI for the banks, return on investment to the banks. And the other part is you can also introduce to those small businesses the modernization of their business infrastructure. Like I said, in India, they're going to 4G and every business will have access to it. Well, why can't we do that in Watts? Why can't we do that in Los Angeles? And every small business has the ability to now engage and put some software systems into business to make them operate more efficiently. And I think that's how you create the productivity across, the servicing the financial institutions and banking infrastructure into those small businesses.